Sergeant Major, welcome. I think you're in Oceanside, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where I find you today?
Definitely in Oceanside today.
Well, I know it because I married a girl from Fallbrook whose dad was last stationed at Oceanside. So I drove through your hometown many, many times when I lived out west, and I'm glad to have you. My sketch sheet says you served 30 years in the Marine Corps.
Yes, I did. 30 long years. Well, kind of
Well,
short if you think about it.
thank you. I haven't
Thank
had a
you.
30-year vet before, and I appreciate it. How has the fund been of help to you with dealing with after the Corps life?
The biggest problem is to ask for help, in which you figure after 30 years, no one's going to ask for help. I think it was my first doctor's appointment after I got out, and my doctor says, "Hey, you have PTSD," in which I could have said, yes, I already knew that. But, you know, it took me probably about 5 years to figure out that I had a problem.
But you had deployed everywhere. I've got my sketch here. Operation Southern Watch, Operation Iraqi Freedom, 2 tours, 3 tours in Operation Enduring Freedom. You must have seen other people with PTS, but you didn't see it in yourself?
I didn't, because I had to portray a person that had to be a little bit stronger than everybody else.
And so once you came to that recognition, what did the fund do for you?
So the way I found out about the fund is I never knew anything about the fund up until about earlier this year when they came and they talked to us at Aspire Center, which is a PTSD center in San Diego, Old Town. And I just started asking questions about it. And he said, I can't remember who the gentleman was, and I apologize, but he said, hey, give us an email, look us up and find out what we're all about. And I did. And so far, I faced my fears. I've been able to get out of my shell. I don't isolate much anymore. I mean, heck, I even ran a half marathon and 10 miles, and that would have been unseen of 10 months ago.
Wow, that's fabulous to hear. But when I first found out about the fund, it was at Camp Pendleton. They had opened up the Wounded Warrior Battalion there in 2004, 2005. I can't remember when. And Wendy Lathine took me over there. And I would have thought by the time you left the Corps, you would have known all about it, because you basically lived the last 25 years of our war, and it didn't occur. You didn't know about the fund.
I didn't know, but the funny thing is I had a hat and it said Simplify Fund on it. But I never knew about it. I knew about the Wounded Warrior Project. I knew about some of the other things. There's like catchalip.org, some other associations that help out vets and everything. But like I said, I always thought that I was above that. And it just took me, I guess, not really crying out, but saying, hey, I need help. Finally saying, you know what, let go of your weaknesses and your strengths and all that stuff and just give in.
I'm so glad you're saying this on the air to everyone else who's out there and wondering whether or not to speak up. What do you say to those veterans, Sergeant Major, who may be struggling and may be thinking about asking for help?
I was in the same position about a year ago. At probably like the darkest moments that I can think of. Not necessarily rock bottom, but I called in. I finally said, you know what, I've had enough. I've had enough of the drinking. I've had enough of the being lonely. I've had enough of that, like these thoughts that I'd had in my head. And I was like, I got to be stronger than this, because I have, 3 boys. I got a girlfriend. She's got her kids and now grandkids. And I got to be strong for everybody. But they got to be strong for me too. In which, if it wasn't for my girlfriend Araceli pushing me to do this, I probably would still be sitting on my couch, doing the same thing I was doing a year ago. And just to be able to finally say, I give up. Not saying I give up, I surrender. I'm never going to say that. But I need help. And
well, I'm very glad you did. Help. And how'd the 10-miler go? I mean, you've been out of the Corps a while. How'd that 10-miler feel?
My time was about an hour and 44 minutes, and then they have this clock time and this other time. So it actually gave me a time of 100 or an hour and 24 minutes, which I was like, you know what, I ran really fast, but actually it was an hour and 40 minutes.
It's
But it
still a
was
pretty
fun.
good time. Sergeant Major, who is your caseworker, and how's that relationship developing? Because most of the veterans I talk to have had some relationship with the fund, love them. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they have them for 15, 20 years.
So my caseworker is Claire Whitlock. I've never met her. I thought I was going to be able to meet her in Washington, D.C. when we were doing the 10-miler, but she had something else that came up. I reached out to Claire. Well, Claire first reached out to me, and, just right away, just the sincerity, that they're looking out for my best interests and, the best interest for the whole organization and the fund. I had a really, really rough patch where I had to pay a lot of money this year for taxes. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make my mortgage payment. And she helped me out, and I made that mortgage payment. I just started school again. I had his computer to like 6 years old. Not really even asking for it. I got a new computer. And now I'm using, I was trying to use this computer to call you, but, now I'm using this to finish off my degree, which I, stopped doing for the last 2-3 years.
Well, good for you. That is terrific. I just want to thank you again on Veterans Day for 30 years of service as a Marine, and especially for 10 minutes of your time to make this direct point to people who are listening who are veterans that the fund is there for them, and not to sit on the couch and think to themselves, but to make the phone call and look for the help. Sergeant Major, thank you. Have a great Veterans Day with your boys and your family.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.